All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Sunday night episode here on Darknite Radio. I'm one co-host of this show, Mr. Dwayne Holmes. I do have my co-host Sherika and Jackie here as well, Lauren and Katie. She's tuning in from the background here, and Lauren will be joining us shortly as well. Have Sherika message her and see where she's at actually. And of course, we have Ernie and Denise from Packman Paranormal and the Safe Waverly Hills group. Without further ado, everybody, we do know today was a sad, tragic day in the United States history. On this date, 9/11/2001. We don't need much reminder for that date. But in that time frame, there was a group of terrorists that decided to take out our Twin Towers. We continue to pray for them and their families and all the loved ones lost in that day and that time frame. Just going to take a few moments here, moments of silence to honor the ones that we lost on 9/11/2001, and thank all the men and women, the servicemen and women who are still here with us that survived that tragic day, and the families that didn't survive, as well as the ones that perished in that time. Thank you for that. Sad days in American history. But we do want to honor them and thank all the men and women who died and survived and put their lives on the line, and everybody the families that didn't make it out. They have family members that didn't make it back home. We're thinking of y'all always. It'll never be forgotten.
Looks like 93.
Yeah.
I see our friend Eric in there. Eric is one of our biggest supporters. He is in every podcast we do. Eric pops up.
He pops in to say hello every time.
Hi, Eric, and hi, Zira. We see you guys.
Yeah, Zira's one of our followers as well. She's actually been a loyal follower of ours for years now.
Lauren said she's sick, so she's not.
Yeah, Lauren's been sick all day, so I guess she ain't gonna make it. She told us earlier she wasn't feeling good. Hopefully, we're gonna wish her a speedy recovery. We know Facebook user. What's up, guys? Hello.
Hello.
I don't know why it's showing you as Facebook user, but hello.
Here's Lauren.
Hello, Lauren.
We got a lot of our Save Waverly people over here.
There we go. That's awesome.
Yes.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. And without further ado, we'll give both you and Denise, Ernie, both of you, a moment to introduce yourselves for those who may not be familiar, which most should with the Save Waverly Hills movement for sure. Kind of introduce yourself, tell a little bit about how you got started in this field, how you two met, which is also on the bio. So if they miss it, they can check it out.
Right.
My way that I got started is rather boring. He's got more of a story than I've got. I was born and raised into this life. My parents were ghost hunters back before it was actually called ghost hunting. They would just hear about urban legends or be interested in. I grew up in rural West Virginia, down in the holler. You can imagine the stories that come out of places like that.
Oh, yeah.
So
not far from Mothman, too.
Not far from Mothman, actually. I was right in Mothman area. So every urban legend that they heard of, they investigated. And when I was old enough I don't really have a vivid memory of it, but I remember them telling me about my dad strapping me in one of those backpack carriers on his back and traipsing through the woods looking for some baby that would cry in the well in the middle of the night. So this is my whole life, born and raised.
That's actually, you said it's kind of boring, but that's actually pretty cool. There's not very many people that were born into it, or just grew up their whole life doing it.
I did not know that ghosts weren't like a part of everyday life for everybody until I started to kindergarten and I started talking about ghosts, and everybody told me there was no such thing, and I was really confused because I was like, well, you mean there's no such thing? We see them all the time.
Right.
I didn't know that I was the weird one.
Right.
Well, I grew up in a family of believers, not ghost hunters, but believers. Um, there's a lot of Native American heritage in my family, and Native Americans are very into the spiritual world.
He's like a fifth generation medicine man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you do my lineage back on my dad's mother's side, there's a Cherokee medicine man that's not too far back in the line. But I grew up here in Valley Station in the shadows of Waverly Hills, and it was not a famous place back then. When I was a kid, it was still a functioning geriatric center. But it closed down when I was a teenager. It closed in 1981 and was abandoned, basically. And we would go up there as teenagers and sneak in. And I found out it was haunted real quick when we would do that. And it just kind of fueled my interest in those types of things. And I got into the paranormal in every way possible. I can remember when I was even in elementary school, we go to the library to check out books or whatever. The books I would check out were always on like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, ghosts, anything that everybody else said didn't exist. That's what I was interested in.
Right.
And so I had this interest from a very early age, but then as I got older and started experiencing more at different places myself, I really developed an interest. Wound up starting a paranormal team at one time.
Do not tell them the name of the group.
It was the Supernatural Hunters Investigative Team. Now, SHIT for short. But formed this team with some guys I worked with, and we did a few investigations back in the day. A little bit later, I started a website called True Paranormal, where I would invite people from around the world to send me their ghost stories. And if they seemed halfway legit, I would put them on the site, and we would have discussions about different aspects of things like orbs. Are orbs real? Or is this real? Is this, It was a pretty cool little site. It didn't get a whole lot of traffic, but I didn't have it was a simple site with no advertisement.
Well, it was before like Facebook, MySpace, all of that stuff
before
too.
The TV show Ghost Hunters became so popular and all that. But eventually I went up to Waverly Hills and took tours and would book the public investigations that they had up there, and kept hounding the owner, Tina Mattingly, to let me be a guide. And they never had any openings. And she said, well, you got to start out parking cars before you can be a guide. You got to work your way into that. You don't just start out as a guide. And anyway, eventually one year, hello, Brandon. But one year they needed help in the haunted house. And she said, we got some openings for that if you'd like to do that. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. So I worked the haunted house that year. Brandon was a convict.
Chaos Reigns is Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon was a convict. He was a prisoner. And I was a canine zombie cop. So that was my first employment at Waverly Hills, and worked my way into being a guide rather quickly, and hosted the public overnight, public and private overnights actually. And been deeply involved in the paranormal ever since. And then I met this lady up there. She came for a private overnight.
June 20th, 2019.
Yeah. And there were some things that happened. We can get into Sarah's story a little bit later if you want us to, or we can tell it right
sure. Either way, whatever you want to do, we can go for it now.
Well, I'll let you tell the story.
Okay. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version because we're writing the book and I don't want to give away the whole book. But I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
He says we're writing a book. He's lazy. I can't get him in front of the computer to write his part. I've got my
I
part.
told you to get the computer. Anyway, she comes up there with several friends and 3 of her daughters. It happened to be her daughter Darby's 18th birthday. So, I mean, I always try to make guests feel special anyway, but it being her daughter's birthday, I thought I'd give them a little extra attention and all that. And something kept telling me to do this. I don't know why. I mean, I just felt compelled to for whatever reason. Yeah. It's like a little tiny female voice in my head telling me that. And so I'm giving the tour. And if you're familiar with Waverly Hills, you've probably heard a story about a nurse who was found hanging outside of room 502. The story that was passed down to Tina and Charlie and the people that were there at the time came from a former employee who said that it was actually a family member of hers who had found her, or of his who had found her.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And he said that this nurse had been having an affair with a married doctor, that she had gotten pregnant, had given herself an abortion or had an abortion, flushed the fetus down the toilet in room 502, and then hung herself outside of room 502. That's the story that was told. They said when they found her, there was blood running down her legs, dripping from her toes, obvious signs of an abortion and all of these things. And that's the story that was told for years. That's the story all the guides told. It's the story I told. But it never had made sense to me, and I'd been doing my own investigation every time I'd been going up there for years trying to communicate with her. And I'd gotten a whole different version of what had been going on with her. Well, anyway, when I'm giving them their tour, we get up to the 5th floor, and I tell the story of the nurse having the affair with the married doctor, getting pregnant, having an abortion, and hanging herself outside of room 502. And then something in my head just clicked, and I hear this little female voice say, "Tell them the truth." And for the first time in all the tours I had given up there, I said, "But I don't think that's what happened. If you'd like to hear her story, I'll tell you what I've gotten from investigating up here." And they were like, "Sure, please." So I start telling Sarah's story. And as I'm telling it, I look over at her, and she's just nodding and grinning like, "Yep, you're right."
I knew the story. I'd been getting the same communication because I had been going. He started working there in 2009. I started going there as a guest in 2009. We did not meet until 2019. And I had the same version of the story that what?
I said, "Thank you, Kayla."
Oh.
She's talking about how great a tour guide I am.
Kayla, you don't have to
She's
listen
a
to him
smart
all
person.
day, every day, all day. Anyway, I was getting the same information. So as he starts telling what he says he thinks is the truth, it matched entirely with the information that I had been getting every time I had gone there for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I noticed this. When the tour ended, I pulled her aside. I said, "I noticed that when I was telling Sarah's story, you seem to already know it." And she told me, she said, "Yeah, I've been coming for years, and I've gotten the same thing." And so we started talking about Sarah more that night as the night went on. And then they left, and I thought it was just another guest that had come to Waverly. We had a great night. And they were gone, just like when you guys came. It's like we came, we were friends for the night, and I'll never see you again. Because
oh yeah, you will. Once Waverly gets settled back, you'll see.
What I'm saying. I mean, a lot of times that's how it works. You have someone that you meet, and you're like, you have a great time together. Everybody, has a good night, and then you never
go your separate ways.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Well, the next day I get a friend request from her.
Which is funny because when I left that night, because neither one of us were in the market for romance whatsoever. If anything, I think I ran from him all night because he kept wanting to talk to me about this nurse. And I kept saying, "I got to stay away from this dude. He's following me around." So, I'm running all night. And And then, oh, thank you, Debbie. And then whenever, I had teenagers and I was a single mom, and that's just a whole mess of things you don't want to get into. So I was trying to avoid the dating scene anyway, just because of that. So I didn't even get his last name. I just knew his name was Ernie, and that was it. And he helped me get my stuff in the car. I said goodnight. I left. We're pulling down off the hill, and my youngest child in the back says, well, Mom, I could get behind that relationship. But I'm like, what are you talking about? And all of my kids, I had all of my kids in the car that started harassing me. You should have got his number. You should have at least got his name. My kids were trying to marry me off to him that night. They loved him. And I said, well, I didn't get his last name. I don't know him. I don't know anything about this guy. So, it is what it is. It's over. Maybe we'll see him next time we come up for a tour next year, because you know how hard it is to get into Waverly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the funny thing. It is extremely hard to get into Waverly. Well, the next day, not knowing his last name, I'm thinking about this all night after the kids have said this to me, because it's weird.
You're picturing this and you're thinking, yeah.
I should have ran when I had the chance. I turned on my phone the next day and checked Facebook. People you may know, Ernie Pack. He was the first person to pop up there.
Oh, wow.
He accepted my friend's request the minute that I sent it, and within a week, I had 3 other tickets to Waverly that people didn't want that kept asking me if I wanted them. The first the first one that I was going back on was a public. And I messaged him. We talked a little bit through Messenger and reconnected over the whole Sarah thing. And I messaged him and said, I'm coming up for the private investigation this Friday, or public investigation this Friday. He said, well, I don't do the publics, but I'll try to stick around and say hi to you. And I said, okay, cool. So I messaged him that day to tell him, I'm on my way up. I don't hear from him all day. And I'm thinking, well, he's done blew me off. And, he thought I was overstepping my line or whatever. About an hour before I'm supposed to be up there, I get a message from him. And he said, guess what? This guy called off work tonight and they asked me to pull a double. I'm your guide tonight. This kept happening for months to where, and then we
just weird stuff.
Kept pushing us together. And finally, I guess we had talked enough that we decided, we made a promise to Sarah, both of us individually and then together made a promise to Sarah that we were going to see if we could find some evidence to verify the story that we were putting together. Because so far, and we tell this to everybody, it's all paranormal research. We have had about 30 different teams verify things that they have found that coincides with what we've got, but we don't have any physical evidence.
Us being one.
What's that?
I said us being one. We actually talked about it on the second floor with Lois.
That one. But we've actually got one where we were up there with Sarah. Sister. We lost the hard drive, but we're still going through because we had it on a couple of different computers. We had actually got an EVP up there where we had asked her, why did you hang yourself? And there's an EVP that says, I didn't, right after that.
Right. And we have gotten no baby, murder, rape. We've gotten, and he did talk to a previous employee at the Jefferson County Coroner's Office that said that there is no evidence or file anywhere that says that there was ever even an investigation for a fetus on the property. So for them to state it as fact that they found one, there was not one searched for.
Right.
So that kind of throws that out right there. So we made a promise together to Sarah that we were going to try to research this. So we started teaming up and doing the research together, which brought me to Louisville I was living in Tennessee, brought me to Louisville almost every weekend. And we were spending countless hours together on the phone, at the Filson Club, just cemeteries. I mean, you name it, until finally we reached a point that we were like, okay, it's time to get married.
It's all Sarah's fault. But
that's pretty awesome.
Sarah's story is far different than the one that has been told for years. I'm not saying that this is fact. Like she said, this is paranormal research, and it can't be proven any more than the other story that's been told for years. But it makes a lot more sense. The other story to me didn't make sense because first off, nurses in 1933, when we think this happened, they were lucky to bring home $25 a week. It wasn't a high-paying, prestigious job like what she's got now as a nurse. It was a menial pay, menial job.
They were looked down upon. They were like servants.
Yeah. I mean, kind of similar to like a garbage man or something, was how it was perceived. Like prior to World War II, that's kind of how nurses and people in that field were perceived. Now, doctors were revered.
Doctors were, but the rest of them were.
Yeah.
They were just, peons. And women in the workforce in the 30s were not treated well anyway.
No.
If you went to work at Waverly Hills during that time at the height of the TB epidemic, you had to be confined on the hill just as if you were a patient. Nope. You had to stay there. There were dormitories for the staff. The nurses had their own dormitory. Everybody had their own dormitories. And you had to stay there. You couldn't go out in public. So it was kind of like
their families
that you were giving yourself if you took that job.
And it wasn't just Waverly, too. I mean, all the TB hospitals, it was like if you worked there, and a lot of them were like self-contained little cities. Like they
and it was.
Yeah.
Had its own post office, everything. I mean, it was its own little city, basically.
Workers, and a lot of people don't realize that, but I mean, you were confined there. If you worked there, you lived there, you didn't leave. That was it. That was your life.
So if you took that job, you must care about the people you're caring for, right? I mean, you must believe in the cause of the place.
Oh yeah,
like we believe in the cause of the place today. That we're fighting. But I don't know. The fifth floor. Speaking of those people that she was caring for, the fifth floor, on one wing, you had patients with tubercular meningitis, which is basically TB of the brain. Like common meningitis, it typically affects young adults and children. And these were very sick people. The other wing had the sickest children in it, ages 12 and under, stage 5 tuberculosis. They were kept there on the roof because it had the most access to the two main treatments, fresh air and sunlight. And so for a nurse who took that job under those circumstances to come out there and hang herself in plain view of those two precious, vulnerable classes of patients like that, I just never thought it made sense to me. I just didn't think
the abortion either. I mean, it wouldn't make sense that she would have the abortion either.
Yeah, if you're going to kill yourself, why have an abortion first?
Why are you going to? I mean, if you take care of the kids, you would have to have a passion for children.
Exactly.
So why would you?
And it didn't make sense. Even, one version of the story is that maybe whoever got her pregnant murdered her and gave her an abortion. Well, if you're going to murder her, why go through the problem of giving her an abortion first? I mean, none of that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, just nothing about how the story, when I broke it down, nothing about it added up to me.
Right.
So that's why we started this research, and, I started my own. She started hers separate from me around the same time. And what we came up with was a story based on a word here, a phrase there that you get, when you're up there investigating, doing EVP sessions or running equipment, whatever. Sometimes it'd be through, lighting something up if the answer is yes, or, or it'd be a phrase or a word that you get on a recorder, like no bell and things like that. So what Sarah's story is, putting all those pieces together, she grew up in this area. She was the youngest kid in her family. She was the runt of the family. And she had an older sister she adored that died at the age of 15 from tuberculosis. Sarah watched that happen. She watched her deteriorate, and it tore her up. She wanted to be a nurse who worked with children with tuberculosis. And so she went to school. She got that opportunity. And she became a nurse at Waverly Hills at the age of 22. She was very tiny, very soft-spoken. They thought she'd be a perfect fit for those really sick kids up on the 5th floor. So she went to work there on the night shift, most of the time working alone with just her and the kids up there. And she was there for 3 years. She loved it. It was heaven to her. We know that because we've asked separately. Both of us have gotten the same thing. Why aren't you in heaven? And her answer is, this is heaven. She loved it.
Oh, wow.
But one night, she's alone on the night shift after she's been there for about 3 years. She was 25. Another staff member came up the steps. She didn't use the elevator because she never heard a bell. I kept getting EVPs that said no bell, no bell. And I couldn't figure it out. I was thinking Nobel Peace Prize or, what does she mean? So I started researching any doctors at Waverly who'd gotten a Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that, because I didn't know, it was a research hospital.
Right.
It was a big thing at that time, tuberculosis research. So maybe a doctor there had gotten a Nobel Peace Prize. So I'm thinking, I'm going down this path. Finally, I said, wait a minute. Did you never hear the bell of the elevator? And I get this sarcastic little voice coming back like, right. I'm like,
you finally figured it out.
You got it.
So, this other staff member come up the steps. He comes in the room behind her. He attacks her. She tries to fight back, but she was too little. He was too strong. He got what he wanted. She didn't want to scream because she didn't want to wake the kids. Somewhere in the process of all of this, he hurt my neck, is a phrase that several groups have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
They lied. They covered it up.
Mm-hmm.
Murder. No baby. She was a virgin until that night.
Help me. We get that a lot. Help me.
Yeah, help me. Help me. Stop the lies. Things like that. And that story makes a lot more sense.
It does.
Yeah. So we shared this with y'all.
I don't think they want that one put out. We'll talk about that one off here.
I mean, that's evidence only, but yeah.
We'll talk about that one off here.
But we had the first and second time we had two completely different experiences.
I'm going to tell you,
Waverly.
the first time I went to Waverly Hills, I swore I would never go back to that place. I didn't want anything to do with it.
The first time, which I actually had, and like, I'm not, no disrespect to Zach or whatever. I know they say a lot of things as demons and yada yada.
We understand.
We're not that way. Everything's not a demon. Matter of fact, very rarely do you ever run into an actual demon.
Are they real?
Yes,
absolutely.
they are real.
Are they as common as most
they
people
are very
want to make
powerful.
them out to
Oh,
be?
yeah.
I don't believe they're as common as most people make them.
I've been investigating for 10 years myself, maybe 2 or 3 in that 10 years, maybe. But
26 years for me, maybe a handful. Maybe
My whole life,
yeah.
maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
very,
not.
very, very rarely.
It's not a unusual occurrence, but nonetheless, I'll definitely say there are some negative spirits out there, and they like to try to take over you physically, whether it be emotionally, physically. And the first time we went, all of the males there on the 4th floor had a very negative experience.
We Ron Mitchell. We started clearing. We started clearing those stories up.
Like the only time this ever happened to me was at Waverly Hills. Like, they have it on video where my eyes appear to be black. And like,
hey, Angie.
And one of our other people, one of the males, we actually had to do. I wouldn't say it was kind of a cleansing on him,
praying.
like an exorcism of sorts on him.
Started praying
because he was very affected.
It started in the death tunnel.
No, that wasn't.
Oh, no.
Tim
started in
the other guy started in the death tunnel. I don't know what it was with him in the death tunnel. Something in the death tunnel. It had attached to him somehow. And he was obsessed with the death tunnel the rest of the night after that. Matter of fact, he literally sat in the floor and was watching towards the death tunnel from towards the area where we go to the death tunnel.
He
from
said he
the
was
break
playing
area.
peekaboo.
He said, "You see that guy playing peekaboo with me?" And this was not him.
Sit there
That I don't really want to say possessed, but for lack of a better description, that experience is very common, or was when we were there. And I think we told you guys, like we always said, we didn't think there were any demons at Waverly. We weren't going to tell anybody there was, but there's something very dark in that lobby, and he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And they can affect you, and they can take you over, you know. I mean, we had it happen a lot.
And it's crazy because I actually had a conversation with a guy, because my friend had shared the video, the documentary that he done, because he was there with us, another guy, Robert, the one that we actually had to do the mini exorcism, whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying he's full blown.
I just started praying. I don't know what you
over.
call it, but he was being weird, and I just started praying.
He tried to tell me that there wasn't nothing negative there, and he goes 4 times a year. And I'm all like, I don't know who goes 4 times a year, because I don't know how you could get that many dates to go 4 times a year, for first off, because if you don't book it by the end of January, February at the absolute latest, it's sold out.
Most of them
every year.
That's not how it is.
Well, not now. when the rightful owners had it, that is.
Get to that in a second.
But at the time, everybody knows that's not possible. People don't get Waverly Hills 4 times a year.
He actually, of all his years of being there, he actually got affected once down there in that lobby. And it only happened to him once, but he had something attached to him.
Yeah, I had, I think I probably told you guys this story when you were there. When I was in the lobby once, there were a group of people that had asked me if I could demonstrate the SLS camera for them. They'd never seen one in person. They'd seen it on some of the TV shows and stuff.
Ghost Adventures.
Yeah. And they said, you know, I told them, I said, well, we've got one here. And they said, well, can you show us how it works? And I said, sure, meet me in the lobby. And,
man.
So I went down to the lobby. And I had the SLS camera, and there's nobody else there but me. They hadn't gotten there
and
yet.
We don't use, I don't know if you noticed when you were there with us, we don't really use flashlights that much. We walk around in the dark because we're used to it.
So anyway, I'm sitting there and waiting for them to come in, and I went ahead and turned the camera on, and I just started scanning the room with it. Well, it started mapping this really tall figure over by one of the columns there in the lobby. And I don't know. At first, I thought maybe it was just mapping the column, because you know how an SLS camera, it'll do that. It'll map doorways or chairs or whatever.
Rooms.
Yeah. And so I thought it was just mapping the column. Well, this figure stepped out away from the column and puts its arms out to the side and kind of tilts its head and starts walking toward me. And I was like, okay, that's close enough. And then the camera froze. And I tried to reset the camera. And that's the last thing I remember until 3:00 the next afternoon when I woke up. I called one of the other guides that were there and said, hey, what happened last night? And she was like, it was Chelsea, who you probably see on the Save Waverly page.
Yeah, I don't know that she's in here right now.
I don't know if she's in here right now. Usually she pops in, but it was her. I
There's
called
quite
her.
a few people in here.
First off, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just don't remember leaving there last night. And she said, well, you were weird. We couldn't find you for like 2 hours. And then when I found you, you were just sitting in the dark by yourself, staring at the wall, and you didn't even look like yourself. And I asked you if you were okay. You got real rude with me, and you just got up and stormed out. And I don't remember any of that. I mean, none of that, you know, and you guys have met me. I'm not typically rude. You know?
I've been having chills on my because it's crazy you talk about that, because after that first time we left, we were all affected for like a week after that. All the males were like affected, and Like when we were going to leave that night, I was gonna, excuse my language, I was gonna leave that MF or one of the members on my team. I was gonna leave him in Louisville.
Yeah, and he's like that. He's like that. Like,
because we were leaving, we were going to leave, and he looks at me and he goes, "That's your demon now. He's going home with you."
He said he had his
I
claws
said,
in
"Fuck if he
back.
is."
And I said, "I'll leave your ass here." And I'm like, whoa. Ain't nobody leaving nobody in Kentucky. Can we leave in Arkansas? That's like 16 hours from us.
I said, "You're going to stay here with him. Keep on saying, keep on."
Let me ask you this and see if this rings a bell, since you all have been there a few times and you've done some EVPs and recordings.
Uh-huh.
We've got a name for the guy in the lobby, and he has ventured out from the downstairs and actually roams around the downstairs now. Did we give you that name when you were there?
I don't
recall one.
Did you catch anything on any EVP that says Tim, but it's spelled TEM?
Actually, that whole night, it was a slew of events. Okay, so now let me back up since we're on this discussion, because when we went there, when we went there, I was like, I told Justin, which is my best friend, he used to be a part of the team. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm starting at the beginning. I told my best friend Justin, I was all like, I'm gonna jump. I said, I'm gonna jump off this balcony onto the gargoyles.
You know how, like, I think it's the second floor where it has the balcony and the smoking area and has the gargoyles. Gargoyles. And I was standing there, and he kept saying, "I feel like I want to jump off on the gargoyles' back."
That's what it makes everybody want to jump.
Okay. Yeah. Then a little bit later on in the night, we're out there smoking again, and he looks over at me and he goes, "No, it wants me to push Tim off the balcony." Okay, we had a guy in our group, the one that got affected.
His name was Tim.
Yeah, his name was Tim, so we was thinking that. Right after he says that, we caught the clearest EVP I think that we have ever caught that says,
might throw Tim
off the balcony. We thought it was the Tim in our group.
It's actually TEM, and we've gotten him lots, so we're pretty sure that's who's downstairs.
Oh wow, that's crazy! Like,
if you
I love it when we get this kind of cross validation from people that never heard that.
If you look up TEM, it's actually short for Artem, I think, and it's an Egyptian.
It's an Egyptian.
Egyptian demon god basically.
It's a deity.
But it's funny because it seems like when people come with the name Tim, Tim, he seems to be more active, because the last time we had Tim Kohler there.
Tim Kohler.
And the second time we went, Tim wasn't with us.
Tim wasn't with us.
And you didn't have that dark energy.
And we didn't have the dark energy.
Because like I said, after we went the first time, I was dead set. I was never going back. When they booked it the second time, I told them, I'm not going. And they're like, yeah, you have to go. We had another investigation, a couple of other investigations. Like I said, it's like a 16-hour drive for us. So I was like, okay, but when y'all go to Waverly, I'm staying at the hotel. And up until like a few hours before we went, I was dead set. I was not going back. Like, was not going back.
I had basically all but forced Erica to go back. She didn't want to go.
I think a lot of that energy a lot of the energy changed too, though. Like on the fourth floor, you could probably tell a difference from the first time you went to the last time, because we started telling the stories, because we were investigating the stories of the people and trying to get their stories as correct as we could. And so that energy changed up on the fourth floor.
Yeah, you didn't have the pushing and growling and things like that used to happen on 4 a lot.
Also,
we didn't have that last year when we were up there.
When we went, the first time we went, the guy in our group, Tim, he got affected. We was going up to the 5th floor, and out of nowhere, he said malevolent and just started laughing like
uncontrollable. No, he didn't say malevolent. The Ovula said malevolent, and then he starts laughing. He's all, "You see that? I scared the kids."
So then when we got up there, he was being really weird and kept freaking Lauren out. Like, he was like zoning on Lauren and like getting the camera up in her face. Like he was not himself at all. And he walked over to me and Dwayne, because Lauren was like outside, like on the wing, the open part. And he walks over to me and Dwayne and he goes, look, it'd be so easy to push Lauren off the balcony right now. So I immediately go over and tell Lauren, I'm like, Lauren, come back inside. Don't be standing by the ledge right now. Like, you know, I'm trying to protect everybody, because it was just the second time we went, completely different experience. It was more peaceful. Like,
yeah, and that's
it was completely different.
yeah. The second time, like I said, was completely different, and that seems to be a characteristic of Tim about people with balconies. Pushing Lauren over the balcony, wanting me to jump off the balcony.
That was the number one thing that people, when they got affected, would come, like people in their group would come and say, our friend's trying to jump off the balcony. We had to bring him back in here. I mean, we've
had to physically carry people out of the building because they'd be standing there at the ledge and trying to jump, and we'd be pulling them like, no, you're not doing this.
We had to physically, we had a woman get affected, and we knew it wasn't fake because she was a single mom there with her 4 kids. They were older, you know, teenage kids.
Yeah.
But you know, you're a mom. You're there to protect your kids. You're not going to purposely try to freak them out.
Right.
She got affected to the point her kids were sitting in the floor hugging each other and crying because we could not get her to come to her senses. She was like, whatever this was
eyes turned black.
We had her sitting in a chair in Lois and Audrey's room, thinking that was the most calmest place to try to talk her down. She kept saying, I think I'm going to be sick. I need to get to the balcony. I think I'm going to be sick. I need to go out to the ledge. We kept saying, no, you are not going to go out to the ledge. We physically had to drag her from Lois and Audrey's room all the way down through the cafeteria and out those side doors of the dock to get her out of the building.
You know what?
Have y'all ever had anybody that like got choked or felt like they were choking in there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
We had that. The experience we had.
This is what brought me out of it.
The reason I did not want to go back after the first time. We had all went up to the fort. Well, not all of us. It was
Me,
Dwayne, Justin, and Tim,
and you,
and me,
and Robert. No, Tim wasn't on the fourth
floor. No, Tim
wasn't
wasn't up there. You're right. Tim wasn't up there. It was the 3 males and me, and we went up there. And I kept telling them the whole time up there, I was like, we don't need to stay on the floor. Robert had went up there, and there was like a bat that was up there, so he was hollering for help. So I was going to go up there and get him. And I kept telling him, well, the night before we had done an investigation, and he fell off the stage and hurt his hip, so he was limping around anyway.
Because the night before we had done, I got to share this real quick, funny story. We were at Rose Opera House in Cynthiana, Kentucky. If y'all haven't been there, I know y'all have because you're shaking your head. Yes, it's amazing.
There.
Yeah, it's an amazing location and it's hella cheap.
On the balcony.
But we were doing improvs, like they were doing improvs. I was watching, and Justin and Tim and Robert were up there on the stage, you know, doing improv, trying to get reactions or rise out of the spirits or whatnot, and. Next thing you know, I'm up on the grand balcony up top, and I'm videoing down there, videoing them on the stage, and we're just hanging out or whatever, having a laugh at them. And next thing you know, he misses the top step. Yeah, he went to run off the stage, missed the top step, and went straight to the ground. Like we were worried about. I mean, I was worried about it, but I couldn't help. I started dying laughing because he just went straight to the ground.
He was hurt, but he had ventured up to the 4th floor, and the bat up there was bothering him, and he started hollering. So we went up there to get him, and it was Dwayne, Dustin, and me that was going up there. And
he was hollering about the bats, and something was trapping him. Like he felt like there was an entity as well, not just like. His words were the bat was sent to attack him from an entity, which, I mean, he's all there. I'm trapped up here. Well, we get up there.
On the way up there, though, I kept telling them, I got a feeling we don't need to stay on this floor. We're going to get Tim, and we're going to go back down to base, and we're going to regroup. Or Robert. Yeah. We're going to get Robert, and we're going to regroup. Of course, we get up there and they start investigating. Dwayne's eyes turned black, and he was just like not responding, he was off in his own little thing, like nobody else existed. His eyes were black. Robert started choking, and I was like, he didn't have no necklaces on, and you could tell like he was not faking it. Like his lips started turning purple, and I'm freaking out at this point because I'm like, Dwayne, like, what's wrong with Robert? Okay, I'm still fairly new to investigating at this point, and I'm like, what's wrong with Robert? Like, do something.
Matter of fact, I think she'd only been doing it at that time like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waverly's a big place to go for your first big time. 6 months in.
I'm trying to get Dwayne. I'm like, Dwayne, like, help him. And Dwayne's eyes are black. He starts laughing. And I'm
laughing
like,
at Robert. And that's
this
not me.
ain't funny. Like,
Robert had squatted down. He was leaning against the wall. He was laughing like, I'd say demonic, like something you see in a horror movie. I don't mean like literally demonic. Something you see in a horror movie, something like that. Like, he's just laughing. And then she's all telling me to get him, and I'm just laughing. Like, I'm laughing at Robert and like joining him, and like.
And then Robert starts choking.
so sad.
I holler at Justin because he's like a little, like, not way down the hallway, but a little bit down. And I'm like, Justin, help me. Like, I'm screaming at Justin. And I swear, like, his head turned all the way around. I did not see that man's body move. It was probably just me freaking myself out. I don't know.
Seen it.
I've seen it.
But I swear, his body did not move. And his head turned around, looked at me, and started doing the same laugh that they was doing.
And then he just walks off in the dark by himself.
And Justin don't go nowhere by himself. Like, he's usually pretty responsive, you know.
Well, I've had instances where, because, you know, we walk around by ourselves in there all the time without flashlights. And I've had a couple of instances like coming down the 4th floor because I'll be like upstairs with the group and I'll need to go to the restroom or something. And I'll leave them up there and I'll venture all the way down. And I usually walk down the 4th floor and hit those stairs on the other end to get down to the bathroom.
Right.
And, I've had a few times coming around that last curve there where I have felt like something's come up and tried to jump on my back and attach to me, that I could just feel it breathing down the back of my neck. But, you know, I'm used to them. I would always be like, I am not the one. You need to go on back in there where you're at and find somebody else to try to freak out.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, if I wasn't such a chicken shit, they would have got left on that floor by themselves. That's the only reason they didn't get left is because I was too scared to go back to face by myself. Yes.
See, honestly, my mindset going back the second time was I'm going to figure out what the hell attached to me or what affected us. And we're going to talk to him about it. And we're going to confront him about it. Well, get there and get to the 4th floor and everything. And it's a completely different atmosphere. Like, it's not, it's you don't feel in there as much anymore. The first time, I felt him instantly. Like, he drew me down the hallway. Like, we went to get Robert. We were supposed to just get Robert and get off the floor because Sherika said before, like she said, before he ever walked up there, we need to just get him and go. And I get up there and Sherika's all, come on, we need to go. I'm all, no, we need to go down here. We need to go down here. So ended up, we walked down there and that's when all that started happening. And so if I would have just listened to her, but, you know, men, we're prideful, and we're going to do our own thing at times.
So.
Stubborn.
No matter what anybody says, we're stubborn. And so we ventured down the hall, and it was on. And, like, Robert actually got choked. Like, his face was turning purple, and that's what brought me out of it.
It's hard to tell what's going on up there now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard a lot of folks that have gone this year, you know, that either booked prior to knowing what was going on or you know, hadn't taken a position either way as far as the court battle, and they went up there. I've had a lot of them send me messages about how the energy of the building is just off. It is.
So I can imagine.
It's either dark or it's sad, or it's just, or there's nothing going on. And, that's not the Waverly that we know.
No.
I mean,
Right.
there's good people up there. I mean, there are people that are funny. John some of the
Mitchell's
spirits
hilarious.
there are jokesters, and they're playful. You got the kids that play ball sometimes. You got a lot of sad stories that are told when you're communicating with the spirits. And it seems like now that energy has changed. I think that the spirits that are there know what's going on, and they're lashing out, or they're just sad about it.
We live so close to Waverly that some of the familiar ones that we dealt with a lot up there that we knew by name, we actually have here at the house at times. They pop in and out over here.
Come visit.
So Ernie was standing in the kitchen making chocolate milk, stirring his chocolate milk. Middle of the night, he gets heartburn, so he gets up and drinks chocolate milk. He's standing there stirring his chocolate milk, and he looks up in the window over the sink, looking out into the backyard, and he sees a figure walking up beside him, and he thinks it's me, and he turns to look, and Sarah's standing there watching him stir his chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Aww.
Man.
I about peed my pants, but I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
Wasn't expecting that at all. Yeah, Lisa's talking about when she went on a private last year. I was telling him some kind of story or talking like I usually do, and
He usually does.
Shut up. And and we hear this loud bang, and we look, and the cafeteria. Well, the doors going down the hallway toward the cafeteria had just flown open.
Yeah, Jeff says he can confirm Sarah visits. Jeff has stayed here a few times and has seen and heard her. I mean, almost anybody that has come to our house, it's, because we used to have a lot of people spend the night here because they would come here, even working at Waverly or whatever. Todd and Leanne Eskew that were guides up there, they will be at the breakfast table in the morning with us, sitting around talking, and look up and she'll be standing in the living room, just like, spur of the moment.
Oh, wow. I think they make connections with this. Everybody says that spirit, they're the same in spirit as they are in human form. I mean, we have friends that we go visit, so it only makes sense that, if you, especially with y'all, as much as y'all put in for Sarah and her story and getting her truth told, it only makes sense that she comes to visit with y'all or stays there.
I think they know the fight that we're in right now, too, and I think they're trying to fight with us.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I think they've watched over us.
So we have mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, so since we're on that topic, let's discuss it a little bit.
All right.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead. If you got a question.
I was going to say, so where are we at with it as of right now? I know we discussed it a little bit prior to the show, but kind of give everybody an update as to where we're at for those who may not know.
Okay. Well, I'll backtrack a little bit for anybody that's not familiar at all that anything is going on at Waverly Hills. Charlie Mattingly bought the property in 2001 when it was an unknown, abandoned location that had never been on TV, never was a famous place, wasn't even known worldwide to be haunted. None of those things. And soon turned it into the iconic bucket list location for just about any paranormal investigator. He found out it was haunted when he was in there trying to clean up. He started noticing things going on that weren't natural. And so, to make a long story short, wound up doing tours and investigations there. And other fundraisers, haunted house, things like that. Well, he put a organization in place that he created called the Waverly Hills Historical Society to run the business end of those tours and investigations. As far as it would be run as a nonprofit. They would take care of any tax liabilities and all the business, all the money. They would handle that. And he would do the work on the building with the funds that they were raising with the tours and investigations. And that agreement worked out just fine for many years. He leased the building to them for $1 a year. signed a 99-year lease with them. That was, I mean, you get way down in the weeds with that. That was due to them owing back taxes from the years prior to getting their 501c3 certification.
The Historical Society, not the Mattinglys.
Yeah, because the agreement with them was that they would be the ones responsible for taxes and whatnot. So it wasn't Charlie's responsibility. But when the IRS came knocking because of that those back taxes, Charlie owned the building. So he was deemed liable at that point, even though it wasn't really his, according to that agreement, it shouldn't have been his problem.
Right.
But anyway, they reached this agreement for him to lease the building to them for $1 a year for 99 years. And he would handle all the construction and renovations and upkeep of the building. And like I say, that agreement worked fine for about 20 years. Well, over time, though, the board of directors for the Historical Society became all composed of this one little clique, all surrounding one person, Renee Clark. Everyone on the board was a friend of hers or a family member, whatever. And a couple of years ago, they voted to fire Tina Mattingly, the lady that everyone knows as the face of Waverly Hills.
Oh, I know Tina.
That's
I
who
met
your tour
Tina
guide
the
was
first
the first
time.
time we went.
Exactly.
And they did this, they made this decision to do this when Tina got really, really sick and was in the hospital. She almost died. So this was during the midst of her being very ill, in and out of surgery. Charlie has a pacemaker, him having to go in and have work on that. COVID, they fired him and threw him out of their home.
Yeah. You know, there's a nationwide moratorium on evictions, but Tina and Charlie were told to get off the property, get out of their home. You know, they lived in an apartment in the building under the laundry room.
Yep.
And they kicked him out. And they filed a lawsuit against Tina and Charlie, claiming shoddy workmanship and that he had misappropriated funds and all kinds of things that they have no evidence to back up.
One of the things that they tried to use was that he was not restoring the building to historical standards. And it's very important because some people are like, well, yeah, I can see that. Well, you're only required to do that if you take government funds. He never applied for any type of grants or government funding. This was all done. He didn't believe in taking taxpayers' money for that. This was all done with funds that they raised through their tours and investigations because he did not want the government telling him how to restore his building.
Right.
He was
It
just trying
wasn't
to keep it
national.
home.
Didn't he
Is
have
it
to
like a
fix the
national-
foundation and stuff too?
What's that?
Didn't he have to fix the foundation and stuff too on there? When
Yeah.
Yeah, the
because they
previous
tried
owner
to
had
collapse
dug
the
out
building?
around the foundation trying
Yeah.
to get the building to collapse. And so he had to go in and shore all that up, backfill a lot of that dirt that had been removed from
Yeah.
around the foundation and shore it up so that it was safe before he could even get insurance to do tours and investigations in there.
And he was doing it all as economically as he could do it to try to have the funds to keep the building running and standing and safe.
And so anyway, they filed this lawsuit against him, making all these bogus claims.
Because they found out that they could, the building was eligible for $20 million. And until Charlie agreed to get that money or they got him out of the picture, they couldn't apply for that money. Because if they get that $20 million, they are eligible to take, 4%?
It's like 4 or 5%.
Right off the top, discretionary fund. They can pocket it. They don't have to answer to nobody about where that money went.
Mm.
So, you know, there's a big chunk of change that this little clique of friends and family could be sticking in their own pocket if they can get this government grant money that they're never going to get with Charlie as the owner of the building. So none of the board members were getting paid at that time either. The way the board was set up. What are you doing? Oh, okay.
They decided that if they filed a lawsuit against him and could get him off of his property.
There's the lawsuit. That's how thick it is.
Wow.
One of the
That's
lines,
crazy.
basically, it's not worded exactly this way. And so I'm going to tell you how it is taken. Is basically if he agrees to sign the building over to them, they'll make this go away.
So they're trying to take the building from them. They claim that they're not. But if you read the lawsuit, which we have because we're named in the lawsuit now, that's clearly what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to get him to sign the building over to them
Because
so that they
want
could then
this.
get this money. Now, after they kicked Tina and Charlie out, they started creating all these bogus positions for their friends and family. Things like Director of Media Relations, HR Manager, Director of Operations, Tour Director, Assistant Tour Director. Things like that.
All
that
of
they
these,
can give salaries to people for.
all
They
of
can't
these,
get paid as a board member, but if they have a title like HR Manager or Director of
They can
Media
get a
Relations,
salary. They
then
can
they
get
can
paid
get a
for
salary
it.
for that.
all of these positions that they've named that they're now paying people like 60, 70,000. Heck, the
Executive
director is $117,000 a year from a nonprofit.
For part-time jobs.
All of these positions were what Tina was doing as one person.
Yeah. And so anyway, they filed a lawsuit. Charlie didn't have any money. We offered to help by creating Save Waverly Hills. And a lot of people have pitched in on the Save Waverly Hills movement. Jeffrey Aaron Coddington, who's over here in the chat, has been
Destination Fear.
It's helped a lot. A lot of folks have contributed to helping us raise funds for Charlie to hire attorneys and pay his attorneys to fight this injustice.
And one of the things listed in the lawsuit for us against us, since we are each individually named, is that they're trying to say that we're basically telling people that we're raising money to save Waverly Hills, when in actuality we're raising money for attorney fees. If you look at anything that we have put out anywhere, it specifically states that all funds that we raise are to fight to get Charlie's attorneys paid. That's what we're doing with every penny that we make, aside from, of course, the money we have to use to put together
to book
events,
a venue or whatever for
to
these
raise
events
more
to
money.
do their fundraisers.
Right.
But anyway, so the battle's been going on and on and on for almost 2 years now, and their lawsuit that started out that thick is now down to just a few pages because they have discredited their own lawsuit by doing things like using a road that they claimed that Charlie had done shoddy workmanship on, and it was unsafe. Well, now that's their road in and out of the building that they use every day.
The parking lot
was unsafe. Well, we were up there not too long ago and counted 46 cars in that parking lot. That's unsafe.
They were up to help with some repairs of some things that have gone wrong, because rumor has it that they're out of money now and they're taking loans against the property that Charlie did. Charlie gave them 168 acres for them.
Well, he didn't give it to them. He made the deal.
He made the deal and basically gave them assets, which is why he can't dissolve them, because they have assets. Well, rumor has it they're now taking out loans against that property because all that money that they were making before, based upon, not getting the tours and investigations that they were, and all these big, wages they're paying everybody, and the amount of money they're paying to construction people and things to come in and do work that Charlie wasn't hardly, spending anything for or before.
He wasn't charging them any labor.
He just the parts and stuff. But
whatever materials it took is what he was.
They have went through so much money. They're now taking out loans, and this whole lawsuit started with them talking about his shoddy workmanship. Well, now they're calling him up to do repairs
because they need help.
The audacity in that.
Yeah.
They have. Okay.
You want to talk about audacity?
Let's go there. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
They swore they would never do a haunted house again. Now, this haunted house made into the six figures one night alone on Friday and Saturday.
Well, close to.
It made a lot of money.
Yeah.
They ripped out all of those fake walls and stuff that was put in down there, the electrical wiring and stuff that Charlie had put in. They took it all out. Said they were never doing a haunted house again. Well, now they've decided, because they have no money,
they're broke,
that they're going to do a haunted house. they've started reaching out to Charlie to negotiate, because one of the things that has happened since this lawsuit got started was Gate A, the entrance that comes up by the golf course, is on Charlie's part of the property that they do not have access for, and part of that parking lot up way past that second gate, almost all the way to the main parking lot. We locked that gate and took that parking lot away from them. So they've had to use Gate B down by Dixie. They're now wanting to negotiate because they asked Charlie if they could use his parking lot and his gate for their haunted house.
Wow.
So you kick a man out of his house, try to take the last 20 years of his life away from him, basically. Try to take away the legacy that he was building for his kids and grandkids and everything. His retirement. You take all of that from him, and then you've got the balls, or audacity is a better, nicer word, to come to him and say, hey, would you let us use that gate to do a haunted house so that we can pay off our attorneys to steal this building from you? Give me a break.
I hope he's smart enough. I'm like Chris. Hopefully he laughed at him.
Well, he basically did, but he said we can't give out too many details of what's happening right now because we are kind of
we're playing chess.
We're playing chess. We're kind of under a gag order for some of that, but let's just say he's not going down without a fight, and he hasn't forgotten what they've done to him. And
they're going to have to make a really sweet offer if they want to negotiate. Something that ends with them getting the hell out.
And, one of the things that he added into some of the negotiation things that he told them that he would take, that he might consider, might have been throwing me and Ernie in there a few times too.
Yeah.
And they don't like us a whole lot right now at all.
Because
I can imagine, because you're helping him fight against them.
Right.
And we have gone on hundreds of these shows like this.
We've been to
and
Vegas.
Told the truth.
We've been to Vegas
and
they
done
events.
Don't like the truth. If you go to the Waverly Hills Facebook page, for example, and just tell people Tina and Charlie didn't retire, they were kicked out of their home by the WHHS, you're going to be blocked and your comment's going to be deleted.
Right.
Because that was the lie that the WHHS was telling to everyone for a year.
They're doing anything and everything they can to keep the truth from being told.
Exactly. They are afraid of the truth.
Wow.
And that's why they're afraid of us, because we have been spewing the truth about what's really going on for a year now.
I think part of the thing that's starting to really scare them now is when they first started these negotiation tactics, they basically came with him and asked him, what kind of dollar figure do you want? Because to them, it's about the money.
And they thought that money could buy Charlie.
It was never about money to Charlie. It's never been about money to Charlie.
It's about principle.
And there's not a dollar figure that they can give him to make this right. They can just give him his damn building back and get the hell out of the property.
So, I know a lot of it's still in, not settled, but does it look like there's an outcome that, not if, but when, because he's in the right, when he gets his building back, will he be able to remove them, or are they, with that contract,
that's part of his demands.
To restructure
one of
the
the
board.
thing is that they are going to have to do is restructure the board of directors and restructure the setup of the 501c3 of the Waverly Hills Historical Society as a whole. And that would call for elections to be held as soon as possible for new board members, and those elections to be voted on by members of Save Waverly Hills.
And that's what Charlie said. He wants only the members of Save Waverly Hills to be able to vote at the election.
And,
we'd like to be confident that they won't be voted back in.
I don't think that any of those folks who have been trying to take this building from Tina and Charlie for a couple of years now are going to get reelected by people who have joined our cause to fight this.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, they packed up a bunch of lease violations, and because Charlie owns the building, of course, those violations were brought to him. So we've had an eviction hearing set twice now that has now been pushed to October 11th. Miraculously, they're trying to negotiate before that
October
hearing.
11th.
However, if Charlie can't find time to negotiate till after that date and they get evicted, negotiation won't be necessary because everything goes away because they have no building.
Their only power is that
The
they
building.
have a lease on the building.
If they lose the
So
building,
if that lease is broken through an eviction, they're toast.
Yeah.
And so we got our fingers crossed that it actually gets in front of a judge on October 11th, and the judge does the right thing, because the lease violations are clear. They're not. It's not some stretch to say, oh, they violated the lease by doing this. No, it's very clear. You committed code violations and things like this, and Charlie got fined for it when you had already kicked him off the property.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do with these code violations because he wasn't allowed in the building. You did it.
and you
And
know,
he got fined for it.
basically, Charlie is their
Yeah.
landlord. They changed the locks on the building. He does not have a key into his own building. They tore down walls. They built offices. Can you rent a house and go in and
Renovate
refurbish
it?
it however you want to?
No.
Not without the landlord's written consent, or at least in
Exactly.
Arkansas.
Exactly. And they've done a lot of that stuff.
Mm.
The cafeteria area up
Mhm.
there, that small area that was the children's cafeteria back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, that's all walled off now, and it's offices in there.
What
The
in the
auxiliary
hell?
morgue that was very active, that had the coffins and stuff in it, that's
Yeah.
now your gift shop.
That's the gift shop now.
They don't know anything about investigating to know where the hot spots in the building are to
They
be
took
able
away
to,
some good spots.
right. They don't know because they're not investigators.
Mm.
They're just business people
Right.
that don't pay their taxes.
This is all that matters to them.
Well,
Mm.
And they, like Denise said, they thought that, they could just, the first time they went to talk to Charlie about a negotiation, they said, what's it going to cost to make you happy?
For you to
And
leave.
Charlie said, money? I don't want money. And it blew them out. Yeah, it blew their minds because, they're like, well, we could give him $1 million and he's not wanting money.
That's not what it's
you don't
about.
want your money.
It's not about money at all. And they don't get that because that's all that they see is the dollar signs that
Right.
the building brings.
That's sad.
And-
They need
but
to be
you-
out of
you-
there.
You see their Facebook posts or watch their little videos that they put out, and they put on this false sense of, we love this building. The WHHS has worked for 20 years to restore and preserve this beautiful piece of history. The WHHS hasn't done shit to restore that building.
And
No, it
Charlie
sounds like they're
Mattingly.
taking it away by building new
Charlie
offices
Mattingly
and tearing
Has
things
restored
down.
that building.
WHHS wasn't technically there 20 years ago.
Right. There's just so
Wow.
much about them that is phony and
Your executive director up there right now will tell you she's been there for 20 years. She was part of the Louisville Ghost Hunters 20 years ago and did a few investigations there and then left and came back within the last
came
couple
back
of years.
last year.
And she's telling people she's been there for 20 years.
Mm.
Wow.
No, and see, even before all of this went down, the last time that we came up there, was that like right at the beginning of it or right before it all started?
It was right. It had been happening, but we were kind of in the middle of not knowing 100% what was happening.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
started when you came in. If you came in July, we were starting to figure it out, and we were starting to question. And they started tying our hands and making it to where, for example, when you're talking about getting affected, you know how you get affected in there. we would carry crystals and stones, and we would take people outside and try to clear them or whatever because of different gifts and abilities that we've got.
Right.
We were told that if anybody gets affected, they're probably on drugs. They've probably been drinking. We need to get them a drink of water, tell them they're having an anxiety attack. We were supposed to separate the metaphysical from the paranormal.
Oh my Lord.
But next weekend, they're having a metaphysical fair up there.
Exactly.
Wow.
And people are actually going?
Separate the metaphysical from the paranormal. Or having a bunch of rituals and stuff up on the hill next week. You guys remember this?
It's all about money.
Yes.
The E80 stove.
Yep.
In my pocket every day.
Yep, you have that on you when you were there, when we were there.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to give those to people to hold if they got affected.
When people got affected, we would hand them this. And it worked. It calmed them. And we weren't supposed to do that anymore because that's witchcraft. And we don't believe in that. We don't do that here.
That was one of the things they started talking about me after the fact. They were spreading to everybody that I was doing witchcraft in the hallways. I was like, what exactly is witchcraft in the hallways? How do you do witchcraft in the hallways? What does that mean exactly?
But they're so passionate about this and they don't freaking understand a thing about it.
Right.
Well, and that's what they were trying to insult me. I mean, it's not been a secret to anybody that I am a witch. I'm a practicing witch. That's just who I am.
Not all witches are bad.
One of our team members is actually a practicing witch. So fucking what?
But they were putting it out everywhere in the community, talking about me like they were trying to explain to people why they got rid of us when in actuality we quit. But they're saying that like it's an insult because they don't know their clientele, because we met everybody that came up there. And I'm here to tell you, it was probably 50-50 of whether they were actually witch, pagan, whatever. But they were trying to use that like it was an insult because they didn't understand their clientele.
That's what I was like. I'm gonna be nice.
Be nice.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I'm at a loss for words on
You're
this
awesome,
because,
Jeremy.
like, the more you talk,
I
don't know how to say this. They're fucking stupid.
Yes.
Just
No
saying.
damn idea what they're doing at all.
Like,
they've got no business running Waverly Hills. There is no one up there that has any business being there at this point. Really. I mean, maybe one of the maintenance guys that worked with Charlie for years because he knows the things that need to be done. He doesn't necessarily know how to do all of them, but he knows what needs to be done up there. Other than that, everybody on the board is in way over their head. They're out of their element, and they've got no business being there.
Here's another little tidbit that you'll think is funny. There was a road coming off the back property that Charlie had put in, like a logging road. And they were saying that it was causing flooding and everything, and that neighbors were complaining, which after we talked to neighbors, we found out they weren't complaining. For whatever reason, the WHHS just wanted, something else to add to their claims. So they paid a construction crew, what was it, $40,000?
I thought it was in the six figures. I thought it was over 100,000.
They paid a pretty penny to have them come in and rip that road out.
Perfectly good road.
Ernie and I were driving by there like a month later, and we stopped and took pictures of ducks swimming on a pond where the water had accumulated where they had ripped the road out because it was causing drainage issues.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they took a place that didn't have a drainage issue and created a pond where ducks now swim.
But that's what they were accusing him of originally. But they're the ones.
Yeah.
Okay, not if, but
so much
when.
About this. I mean, we could talk for 3 hours about the BS that has gone on with this case.
Dealing with
That's
this
why it went from that thick to papers.
Yeah. I mean, we've been dealing with this for 2 years, and every day it's something new. And every day you're scratching your head thinking, how do they see how stupid this is?
How do they even tie their shoes in the morning?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I'm kind of wondering, because it just gets more and more ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Well, I can't wait until y'all get back in there
Because we'll return
I
then.
can't wait till Tina and
Not
Charlie
before
get
then.
back in
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I say y'all, Charlie, you,
Yeah.
for one, like Charlie and just the passion that he has for the place, building it and fixing it. And then I love, like, we had Tina, and I love Tina, don't get me wrong. She was so sweet, really good. You guys had to be my favorite, though. Like, just as passionate. Like, you guys are so passionate about it. And you don't see that with many tour guides nowadays. Most of them, they tell the stories that they're told to tell or that they think is true or, you guys are passionate. And you can tell, like, I'm not going to say the actual story because when we were there, y'all had said, y'all didn't put it out. But I don't know if y'all remember that. Y'all know your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was.
She didn't mean to.
She didn't mean
to. She didn't mean to. So,
it was for reasons like this why we've held part of that different stories in, because you never know what's going to happen and who else is going to be in there. So we feel like that's something of hers that we needed to keep.
If someone else gets that information,
then
like you did,
then we'll confirm it.
We'll confirm it, but we're not going to put it out. It's just like Sarah's story. For 20 years, people have been up there talking. Guides and anybody that researches the building online or whatever that comes up there to investigate. They're going up there and they're asking questions like, "Why did you kill your baby?" and things like that. And
she didn't.
That's not what happened according to her.
Yeah.
And so, that's why we keep some of those stories, confined to a need to know basis only.
I really like that too, because, for one, it's multi-layer. For one, you have a passionate for the people that's there. Two, it's great for, because like us, like we got the evidence and we're like, okay, this is what we got. And you're like, okay, this, So it really helps because I believe in paranormal 100%. I'm very skeptical of evidence and the equipment that we use to do this. All of the equipment has flaws.
Absolutely.
So for something like that, like when I go into a place, like knowing the history's fine, but I feel like sometimes when you know the history, it can run your investigation. I don't go in.
And
like
even
that. I go in.
Like John Mitchell's story on the 4th floor, there was a whole story there, and I went with that story to try to investigate it to bring him peace with the story that I thought was the truth. And found out that wasn't the truth at all and started rewriting his story. And that's when he got calmer.
Yep.
So, I feel like as investigators, we're more than just tour guides. We're investigators. What you got up there now is a bunch of tour guides that are just, mimicking parroting whatever story they've been told to tell.
Yep.
That's why I feel like it's important to have paranormal investigators as guides at these locations. Because I feel like as investigators, we are the voice of those who have passed.
Yeah.
And we have to tell their stories, not some urban legend or some hearsay story that's been passed down.
Our job is not to make them scary. Our job is to bring them peace.
Yep.
And you can have a haunted location that is an incredible haunted location that people love to visit without it being scary.
Yeah.
With
absolutely.
You just telling the stories of the spirits that are there, and they are more apt to interact with you if you are friendly.
And it's just like you said, like John on the 4th floor. His story got told incorrectly. It made him angry. You as a human, if somebody's spreading lies about you, you're going to get mad too.
Exactly.
Oh, we've got recordings of
the story then, accurately, then they're more at peace.
Exactly.
Yeah, Lisa talks about the forgotten ones on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Those folks that were there during the Woodhaven days that were locked away, chained to their beds, and just forgotten. They became people basically with no name or anything, just totally forgotten. And we started telling their stories more last year. It would be mentioned every now and then on tours prior to that. But last year, we would make it a point every time we got to the 4th floor when we were giving a walkthrough that we would mention those folks who were chained to their beds and just basically forgotten. And the energy of the 4th floor, I will say it. I mean, last year, you could just feel that energy changing from this ominous, creepy, spooky floor, I used to call it the most haunted hallway in the world. And it was the scariest part of the building for me. And it just changed. It was a place like going to Lois's room.
They were like happy
at peace.
They were happy to see you almost. It felt like they were like, oh, look, company. It wasn't like they were trying to push you out of there.
We actually went through there one night and we're goofy. When we would go through and lock up at the end of the night, we would stop on each floor and we would say like, good night, Lois. Good night, Audrey. Good night, ladies. We get to the 3rd floor. Good night, William. Good night, Sadie. Good night, guys. Thank you for your service. Because there were a lot of military on the 3rd floor. And, so on and so forth. We got to the 4th floor one night and we're talking and this shadow figure walks out and waves. I mean, we both plainly see it.
What happened was because one of the things we would do also was we would try to play games with him and surprise him at the end of the night.
Jump out in the hallway,
we would run down the stairs and jump out in the hallway to see if we could catch him before they knew we were coming. And Ernie did it, and he said, I just saw one because it went around the corner right when it came out. And I come running out in the hall, and I said, oh, no, I missed it. I say, please come back. I missed you. And it turned around and poked its head around and waved and turned around and went on back down the hall.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy.
That's awesome.
I mean, the energy you give is what you get back at any haunted location. And you're going to get a lot better interaction with the spirits if you go in there with a positive attitude,
friendly,
open mind,
like you're talking to people,
just like you're meeting a stranger on the street that you want to give a good first impression to.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing I've gotten to where I feel like I've grown because I don't care what anybody says. There's no experts, quote unquote, in this field.
Right.
No.
One of the things that I've started doing over the last couple of years and the amount of responses with it, when I go in, like, even though I know the history of a place I don't know the history of a place, I go in with an open mind. And I'm like, my name's Sherika. What's your name? Do you want to tell me your story? And that's what I always try to ask them. Like, what's your story? Do you want to share your story with me? What do you have to say? What do you want known? And you get a lot of good, obviously a lot of good responses to it.
Exactly. I mean,
and that's the way it should be. You got to tell their story for what it is, not for this or not for ratings on the show. We rarely
post any of our evidence or even talk about any of our evidence. Last night we went squatching and had some incredible things happen.
He caught a crazy picture last night, and it wasn't of a squatch. We don't know what it was, but he caught this picture, and he's over there looking. We go out with this guy named Squatch Man. He's over there looking at it with Squatch Man, and it's like 30 seconds after they catch his picture, something runs up and grabs my leg, and it's about as tall as this thing in this picture is. And I'm like, is that what grabbed me? I don't know. But it was just, we catch crazy things, but we don't always put it out there because
it's not about that. It's about the experience for us.
Right.
We put some of it out there, but and especially like this, talking like we share what we catch, but that's not what I do it for. I'm not here to make somebody a believer. I'm not here, and I actually got into an argument with the guy one time because it was raining and he's like, oh, you're going to use equipment, that interferes with it. And I said, do you realize that maybe not everybody's out here so I can catch some piece of evidence that's going to prove to somebody that it's real? Maybe I'm out here for my own experiences or my, to talk with them or to help one of them if I can. And he's like, what?
Yeah, we don't even hardly carry equipment anymore because we just want to see it. We want to feel it. We want to smell it, and that's what it is for us. And we will tell people what we encountered, and it's up to them whether they want to believe us or not. And if they don't, that's fine. We're not here to prove anything.
Right?
We've been doing this long enough that we know what we experience is what we experience.
Yep.
And we don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Exactly.
And
one of our favorite things that we've really gotten into is the Estes experiment. We do that almost every single one. And then last night, we actually added a new thing to it that we tried. It was really cool, where we had a blank piece of paper and the person with the blindfolded headphones on and had a pencil. Kind of like an Ouija board effect, kind of, if they can use your hand to move the planchette, they can move a pen to write out something or draw a picture, and got some really good
it's
stuff with
crazy
that,
too, because it's not like you grip the pen tight. You obviously can't see what you're writing.
Or
right? You're just drawing, whatever the case may be, and you just hold the pen in your hand, and it's really weird because like
with the headphones and the spirit box, you can hear
feel
what they're asking.
Like you can feel like your arm just does this thing where it starts going by itself. It's crazy.
It's like the human pendulum experiment. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but
we've done it a time or two.
It is it's hard to explain. I mean, we've had a lot of non-believers step in there and say, "Okay, I want to do it. Do me." And then, once they get moved, they're like, "Whoa, what the hell just happened?" And the stuff is real. And, I love converting a non-believer into a believer. But if they're not going, some people just have it drilled into their head that, it's fake, it's not real or whatever. And you're not going to convince them. So
no matter what
that's on them. I sent you that picture I caught last night, by the way.
Yeah, I messaged you back. That's crazy.
Do you see it like it's a gremlin or something? I don't even know what it is.
I don't know what the hell that.
Yeah, but we went over. We tried to debunk that. The first thing we do when we get something is not think paranormal.
Well, we thought pareidolia or something. Was it a tree or something? We couldn't recreate it.
Yeah,
it was just black woods over there.
It's just black woods over there. But
it's I don't know. I love the paranormal. It's a passion for me.
Me too.
It can consume people though. It can become an obsession. It can interfere with your personal life. It can do a lot of things that, you got to find that balance. I see her looking at you. But
not as bad anymore.
He got it back under control, but at first
it used to be for me. It used to be that way. So
what's ruined the field and what's ruined it for a lot of people, I think, is all the TikTok superstars and the YouTube millionaires that are out there in the field. Everybody sees that these people are making tons of money, and all they're doing is going out and doing ghost hunting. And so now everybody thinks I can be rich, I can be famous, I can do this, I can do that. I can tell you, I know a lot of the paranormal celebrities personally.
They're not
rich. They might be famous. They might walk into Cracker Barrel and people go, "Hey, I know you. I saw you on that show," or whatever.
People do that to us too, though, and we certainly aren't rich.
Right.
Oh my God, we went to Bobby Mackey's, and we're not even famous. We went to Bobby.
y'all have Waverly Hills, so you have, y'all have that. And then
we went to Bobby Mackey's, the first time we went, and we stopped.
It's actually the first time we.
Yeah, that's the first time. No, we didn't go to Waverly that time. Not the first time. It was Bobby Mackey's and Rose.
Okay, yeah.
But
sorry.
So we go to the gas station, and we're all wearing our shirts or whatever. And this chick's all, "What's your shirt mean?" I'm all, "We're ghost hunters. We're paranormal investigators. she's all, oh, really? I've never met a real life ghost or real life paranormal investigator or ghost hunter before. I got to come outside and take a picture with y'all. So we're all, okay, whatever, We'll go out there and take a picture. Later on, she liked our Facebook page and such. It's just crazy because I'm like, I feel like a celebrity. Another time, which actually is probably what Sherika was referring to, we went to a gas station, right? And this
was when we were going to Waverly.
We was going to Waverly, and we had our shirts on and such. And this dude's in there is all like, Paranormal, Darknite Paranormal Society. Y'all hunt ghosts or something?
No. He goes, are y'all a bowling team?
Oh, no.
He's our shirt. He goes, are y'all
We've heard that before, too.
And we're like, no, we're paranormal investigators. And he's like, what's that? No, he goes, what's that? And I said, like, ghost hunters. And he's like the Ghostbusters? Do y'all have the backpacks and stuff?
We've heard that, too.
We're in the car. They're in the car, dude.
I'm on, no, that's not how it works, guy. You ain't gonna go suck a ghost up with a vacuum cleaner.
Well, we were eating, and since he did you were talking earlier about him being on one of the YouTube channels with YouTubers, he's recognized a lot now, and we had some girl fangirling over him just last weekend, and she's like, "Oh, I'm fangirling." I was like, "Yeah, keep on fangirling. I'm just going to eat my steak. You have that."
Right? Sherika deals with that with me too all the time.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and run. I'm going to leave.
Yeah, we need to wrap this. She's got to get up.
I'm Bernie here to finish wrapping up, but I've got to get up and go to Indianapolis in the morning, so I got to go finish.
We definitely have a safe trip. So
thank you. It was nice meeting y'all again, being on here. Thank you for having us.
You as well. You're welcome. Thank you.
Hopefully, in the short future, everything will be back in place and we'll get to hang
we
out
hope
with y'all.
So. We hope to see all y'all back up there.
Yeah, for sure. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So,
all right.
Now
we can start talking about Denise.
She's amazing.
Wait a minute, she's not gone yet.
Remember, you got to sleep with her tonight, Ernie.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, with Save Waverly Hills, we feel real good about where it's going. Feel real good about things turning around and getting Tina and Charlie back in there in a reasonably short time. I won't make any predictions on exactly how long that might be because their attorneys, like Eric said in the chat earlier, their attorneys, they're really good at stall tactics. I mean, they're doing their job. Their job is to not let their client lose the case. And the only way they can not lose is to keep stalling and not get it in front of a judge. And that's what they're doing. But we're hoping that things are about to wrap up real soon. And in the meantime, we're doing a lot of fundraisers. We've got one coming up on the 24th where one of the owners of a pretty popular local pizza place is having we're calling it a Save Waverly Hills pizza party, but he's giving 20% of everything he brings in that day to the Save Waverly Hills cause.
Wow.
So we're hoping to make a decent amount of money on that. And then on October 15th, we're going to be having a fall festival in the parking lot at Waverly Hills. It's going to have face painting, pumpkin carving, a chili cook-off, lots of different things like activities like that. We got a lot of vendors that have already signed up to have vendor booths out there, a lot of witchy stuff and other items. And then later that night, we're going to build a bonfire, light some torches, set everybody around the bonfire, and we're going to tell Waverly Hills ghost stories.
Oh, that's awesome.
You guys are welcome to come up and tell your story. It'd be a good time. And all that, again, it's a fundraiser for Save Waverly Hills. All the funds go to Charlie's legal funds to help him fight this bullshit that's going on.
Yeah.
And then October 29th, we're going to have a trunk or treat combined with a car show and some other activities going on up there. And then later that night, Open Air Box Office has donated movie set, and they're going to, or a movie set up. They're going to be showing Hocus Pocus and Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that is cool.
They're in the parking lot.
that'd be cute.
I mean, you can be sitting there looking at the movie and then look right over here and see Waverly Hills. You know, I mean, it's going to be a cool setting for both of those. I mean, I think the Ghost Story night is going to be super cool myself.
That's going to be cool too.
The people telling the story. I mean, we're going to have Tina and Charlie telling their stories. I'll be telling some stories. Lisa has said that she might, she can't make it that night, but a lot of the former staff members are coming in to tell their stories, and then former guests are welcome to come too and share theirs. So
I'd love to make it up there, but with I got 4 kids, and 3 of them, or all 4 of them actually, is in sports and band, and
yeah,
so
I totally
this
understand.
We don't get to travel much, but
it's a trip.
Zera's actually, Zera's
like
actually an hour and a half away. So Zera, help them out if you can.
Yeah, come on up. It's gonna be a good time. But you know, I mean, we're gonna keep doing what we've been doing on our end with the Save Waverly Hills stuff. Like I say, they act like they want to negotiate now, but that doesn't mean that we're going to back off at all. We got to keep the heat on. Right. I mean, when somebody's on their heels, that's the best time to give them that final shove, you know?
Yeah.
And, but it still takes a lot of money to pay these attorneys to do that. So that's why we got to keep doing what we've been doing.
I know a lot of them in the chat in here already follow or are part of support Save Waverly Hills. Y'all have a Facebook page.
Yep. We have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, and there's a website, savewaverlyhills.com. There's a lot of merchandise on there that you can only find there. It's one-of-a-kind merchandise. It's not any – if you've been to Waverly Hills 100 times and you say, oh, I've already bought all the shirts. I got the hallway. I got this. I got that. Well, you don't have any of these. These are all new designs for the Save Waverly Hills cause. And,
so definitely, y'all check them out, support them. Let's get Charlie and them back in there where they deserve to be, where they need to be.
Rightfully so.
Get Waverly back to what it's supposed to be.
Exactly. And the time's coming.
Oh yeah, hopefully sooner than later.
There you go, Debbie. That'd be awesome. Definitely share it out. Even if you can't donate money, like Debbie, you know, with Debbie, share it out. That's 350 people in there. That's if each of them donate $1, that's $350. That'll help.
That's a half-hour phone call with an attorney.
There you go.
You know, I mean,
pretty much. But
I say that stuff jokingly, but I mean, that's in reality. If you've ever dealt with attorneys, that's how it works. I mean, they charge $400 or $500 an hour for anything.
So definitely let's help them out, guys. And then I know y'all are going to be real busy coming up, and hopefully shortly, when everything is settled,
we can return.
We can have, for one, we can return to Waverly, and 2, y'all can come back on and we can
discuss it from there as well.
Yeah, we'll plan. We'll plan ahead. SaveWaverlyHills.com, all one word there, Daddy. That's the website. It. I don't know. I guess that's about it. I mean, sharing this out and spreading the word has been our. I mean, we've had 2 missions basically: spread the word about what's going on, tell the truth, and raise funds for Charlie's attorneys. I mean, that's why we're here. And so if you can't donate, if you can just share it out, let other people know what's going on. Because there's a lot of people out there in the paranormal community that don't know what's going on. And they're still, they still got Waverly at the top of their bucket list, and they're going to go the next chance they get. Well, they just need to know that the money they're spending is not going to save that building. It's going to steal that building.
Yeah. So until Charlie and them get back in there, do not give them any more money.
We're not.
We're not.
We're not. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to y'all, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's just my opinion.
If you go right now, you're going to
share
help
that
destroy Waverly.
Yeah. We may never get to investigate it again if we keep finding them. That's where I'm going to leave that.
They're all about money. If they run out of money, they're going to do whatever it takes to turn a quick dime. And if that means selling the building and the property, that might very well be what they do. And if they sell it to a developer, he might see that as a beautiful place to put a new freaking apartment complex or something.
Yep, we've seen that happen too many times in this paranormal.
Too many of our historic places have been lost like that.
Yep.
So I appreciate you guys letting us come on and talk about this.
I appreciate you having you on.
It's been amazing. I mean, thank you for hanging out and having a good chat for sure.
Yeah, I'm up past my bedtime. I'm old.
Me too. I haven't eaten
real quick story. I had a YouTuber in there last year that I gave him his tour, and he did his thing, and he caught some cool evidence, and so he puts out a YouTube video about his experience at Waverly, of course. And he's saying, our guide he's probably the best guide that I've had at any of the locations I've been to, and this guy was very passionate about the place. You could tell he really loves it. And he's been coming there since he was a kid. He used to sneak in there as a kid. And this guy, I'd say he's in his mid-60s. And I was like, you son of a bitch. I am not in my mid-60s. But this was out there on YouTube. And, of course, everybody, Lisa worked up there. A lot of the people, that were up there at the time, everybody that was up there at the time, started calling me Grandpa Waverly. The wise old
she just put Grandpa Waverly in the chat.
Yeah. So, I got this whole new persona cast upon me. And I have not seen that guy since, but if I see him again, I'm going to challenge him to a race up to the 5th floor. And then I'll be waiting at the top step to throw him off the roof.
That's funny.
But anyway, guys, I've had a good time. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to have me back, I'd be happy to come back anytime.
For sure.
We got a busy schedule, so we'd have to plan it ahead. But we could go down in the weeds a lot with paranormal talk, as you know.
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
I'd love to do it.
Oh, for sure. And thanks for hanging out, and all of your amazing followers hang out and supporting us as well. And it's all about saving Waverly Hills at the end of the day, keeping a historical location alive and getting it back to the rightful owners. We'll be back next Sunday night. We have Brad Cooney and John Boyard from the House in Between 1 and 2. So that should be a pretty interesting show.
Brad's a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty awesome, straightforward guy.
Love the movies, so definitely looking forward to that one. If y'all haven't watched the movies yet, for the ones that's going to be on here,
go check it out.
Go check it out. They're awesome movies in themselves.
I love their style of investigating in those movies and such, too. They do a really good job of documenting it.
I love the way that they document it, is what I like.
It's a unique... Go ahead.
Kendall and Vera Welton make some great films. I mean, their documentaries are always top notch.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, we'll have them on next Sunday. So be sure to come back and check us out. Be live at the same time, 8 Central Standard Time. And again, thank you, Ernie, for hanging out. And thank you to Denise as well. No, she had to go to bed. But everybody out there, we love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Keep spreading your love and light to all of the world. And until next time, good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Y'all take care. Thank you.
You too.
You too.